Robben Island. The dark years. We landed on a military airstrip on one end of the island. It was a grim, overcast day, and when I stepped out of the plane, the cold winter wind whipped through our thin prison uniforms. We were met by guards with automatic weapons. The atmosphere was tense but quiet, unlike the boisterous reception I had received on my arrival on the island 2 years before. We were driven to the old jail, an isolated stone building, where we were ordered to strip while standing outside. One of the ritual indignities of prison life is that when you are transferred from one prison to another, the first thing that happens is that you change from the garb of the old prison to that of the new. When we were undressed, we were thrown the plain khaki uniforms of Robben Island. Apartheid's regulations extended even to clothing. All of us, except Kathy, received short trousers, an insubstantial jersey, and a canvas jacket. Kathy, the one Indian among us, was given long trousers. Normally, Africans would receive sandals made from car tires, but in this instance, we were given shoes. Kathy alone received socks. Short trousers for Africans were meant to remind us that we were boys. I put on the short trousers that day, but I vowed that I would not put up with them for long. The warders pointed with their guns where they wanted us to go, and barked their orders in simple one-word commands. Move! Silence! Halt! They did not threaten us in the swaggering way that I recalled from my previous stay, and betrayed no emotion. The old jail was only temporary quarters for us. The authorities were in the process of finishing an entirely separate maximum security structure for political prisoners. While there, we were not permitted to go outside or have any contact with other prisoners. The fourth morning, we were handcuffed and taken in a covered truck to a prison within a prison. This new structure was a one-story rectangular stone fortress with a flat cement courtyard in the center, about 100 feet by 30 feet. It had cells on 3 of the 4 sides. The 4th side was a 20-foot-high wall with a catwalk patrolled by guards with German shepherds. The cells had been reconstructed hurriedly, and the walls were perpetually damp. Many mornings, a small pool of water would have formed on the cold floor overnight. When I raised this with the commanding officer, he told me our bodies would absorb the moisture. We were each issued 3 blankets, so flimsy and worn they were practically transparent. Our bedding consisted of a single sisal or straw mat. Later we were given a felt mat, and one placed the felt mat on top of the sisal one to provide some softness. At that time of year, the cells were so cold, and the blankets provided so little warmth, that we always slept fully dressed. I was assigned a cell at the head of the corridor. It overlooked the courtyard and had a small, eye-level window. I could walk the length of my cell in 3 paces. When I lay down, I could feel the wall with my feet, and my head grazed the concrete at the other side. The width was about 6 feet, and the walls were at least 2 feet thick. Each cell had a white card posted outside of it with our name and our prison number. Mine read N. Mandela, 466/64, which meant I was the 466th prisoner admitted to the island in 1964. I was 46 years old, a political prisoner with a life sentence, and that small cramped space was to be my home for I knew not how long. That first week we began the work which would occupy us for the next few months. Each morning, a load of stones about the size of volleyballs was dumped by the entrance to the courtyard. Using wheelbarrows, we moved the stones to the center of the yard. We were given either 4-pound hammers or 14-pound hammers for the larger stones. Our job was to crush the stones into gravel. We were divided into 4 rows, about 1.5 yards apart, and sat cross-legged on the ground. We were each given a thick rubber ring made from tires in which to place the stones. The ring was meant to catch flying chips of stone, but hardly ever did so. We wore makeshift wire masks to protect our eyes. Warders walked among us to enforce the silence. During those first few weeks, warders from other sections and even other prisons came to stare at us as if we were a collection of rare caged animals. The work was tedious and difficult. It was not strenuous enough to keep us warm, but it was demanding enough to make all our muscles ache. Robben Island had changed since I had been there for a fortnight stay in 1962. In 1962, there were few prisoners. The place seemed more like an experiment than a full-fledged prison. 2 years later, Robben Island was without question the harshest, most iron-fisted outpost in the South African penal system. It was a hardship station, not only for the prisoners, but for the prison staff. Gone were the colored warders who had supplied cigarettes and sympathy. The warders were white and overwhelmingly Afrikaans-speaking, and they demanded a master-servant relationship. They ordered us to call them Bars, which we refused. The racial divide on Robben Island was absolute. There were no black warders and no white prisoners. From the first day, I had protested about being forced to wear short trousers. I demanded to see the head of the prison and made a list of complaints. The warders ignored my protests, but by the end of the second week, I found a pair of old khaki trousers unceremoniously dumped on the floor of my cell. No pin-striped 3-piece suit had ever pleased me as much. But before putting them on, I checked to see if my comrades had been issued trousers as well. They had not, and I told the warder to take them back. I insisted that all African prisoners must have long trousers. The warder grumbled, "Mandela, you say you want long pants and then you don't want them when we give them to you." The warder balked at touching trousers worn by a black man. And finally, the commanding officer himself came to my cell to pick them up. "Very well, Mandela," he said. "You are going to have the same clothing as everyone else." I replied that if he was willing to give me long trousers, why couldn't everyone else have them? He did not have an answer.